Kunal is in the building, ladies and gentlemen. Here he is. How we doing?
What's up, Bobby? Doing well. Doing well. Just got some kava. Came back.
Nice.
It's a great day so far.
I love to hear it. I'm really excited to have you on this series because everyone that I've had for these coaching podcast episodes have been people that I'm just pulling in either through IGDM. But
Right.
you're special in the sense that we previously have worked together. It's been a few months, and I think this is going to be a really good conversation to kind of just almost like catch up with where you're at. And
Yeah.
the timing this being recorded is January 3rd for those listening. Like it's a new year. I know you've been working on a lot of things.
Right.
For context as well, like I think it's huge. You quit drinking alcohol since we stopped working together. You quit your job. There's a lot of change happening in Kunal's life. And I kind of just want to open it up and start with like, where are you at today? And what do you feel like are some of those things that you need help with or to improve on? How can we bring you the most value in this 30-minute conversation?
Yeah. Well, thank you for the opportunity, Bobby. It was great working with you, and always great reconnecting with you. Right now, since we stopped working together, I really gotten the healthy habits down. Where it's like waking up early, hitting the gym, and eating a good diet, getting my sleep under control. I've gotten a lot of those aspects in place, which have helped me a lot. Something I'm currently struggling with is like focus blocks and productivity, and specifically like I put focus blocks on my calendar, but I don't stick to those blocks that I set for myself. Um, and
Why?
currently, that's my because I'm not self disciplined. Like I'm just putting things on there that I need to do it in a way like that priority system that we discussed early on. It works amazing, but I sometimes use my calendar as a way to just put tasks on there without thinking when I would actually want to be doing it. So I use my calendar like a to do list
Okay.
instead of actually trying to like time block specific chunks on there.
So give me an example like today, this morning, you wake up, you run through your personal habit routines. You have that
Right.
priority list. You know what you are attempting to get done in the given day ahead of you. You know that maybe you won't get to everything, but you have some direction as to what you need to do. When you sit down to start working, what's the resistance for just dropping into that first task?
Well, actually, my problem is that I stopped making the priorities list, and because I started just putting things on the calendar itself. So it's like I use my calendar.
Mm.
This has been a recent thing, last couple of weeks. I saw people using the calendar a lot and the concept of time blocking. So the P1s and P2s, I write them out during the day sometimes, but I don't plan my day with the priority list. I try and plan my day with the calendar, and I'm just struggling with having an overall system where it's like priority list, calendar, and having like the structure there, and I'm basically just making myself feel overwhelmed about it.
Okay. So let's dive into this a little bit. This might be a refresher from some of the conversation I think we had probably when we were working together, but
Yeah,
sometimes you need to hear things a few times and then it clicks, right?
right,
So for me, right, I am not meticulous to the point where it's like from 9 a.m. to 9:15, I'm doing this task. And then 9:16 to 9:45, I'm doing this. And then 10 o'clock, I'm going from this to that. Like for me, it's like, how do we build in these blocks of time that you're doing your priorities, and then you're constantly just looking at that task list of what you need to get done that day, and there's chipping away
right.
one at a time because there's going to be sometimes when one task takes you longer than you anticipated, and now your calendar is like thrown off because you're like, well, I should have been done by now, and now I need to move on to the next thing. So do you think just approaching it differently from a place of like, here's a 60-minute focus block, let me see how much I can get done within this list, like do you think that might help you?
That might work. Sometimes the problem is that I'm not in this apartment. I go to a coffee shop, so I'll make the list, but I won't have the list with me. Which can
Mm,
easily be solved by me putting it in a notebook instead of putting it on my whiteboard. But yeah, I think that actually might work. Just it's like the 60 minutes being like having some like ritual in a sense, being like, all right, this is like my time to focus, like my deep work block in the morning for 60 minutes or 90 minutes, and like putting on my headphones and doing what I should be doing, what I know I should be doing, but like consistently doing that. Because sometimes I just kind of like rely on just waiting until I feel motivated,
boom.
which
Oh, you're walking into the trap right there, brother. If you wait until you feel the motivation, it's never going to happen. you have to create the motivation by taking those small steps and building that momentum. It's not Kunal goes to the gym when he feels motivated. Kunal goes to the gym, and while he's there, he's building that motivation through the act of being disciplined and accountable to showing up for yourself. So I have two thoughts. One is, if you're going to write your to-do list and then go to the coffee shop, either take a photo of it on your whiteboard
Yeah.
or start getting the habit of writing it digitally on your phone so you have it with you at all times. Or another idea is, what does it look like if you just wait until you get to the coffee shop? You sit down with your cup of coffee or tea, and before you even dive in, you ask yourself, what is my priority for this day at this coffee shop? Write down all the things that matter, put 60 minutes on the clock, start chipping it away. 60 minutes is up, take a pause, maybe go outside for 5 minutes, catch some fresh air, come back in,
Right.
reset the clock again for another 60 minutes.
It's just not finding what works for me, but the same issue we face then. It's like I try so many different things and don't stick with anything. That's a huge thing I realized in the last like 6 months is that I just try something for like a week or 2 weeks. It's not working for me, or then I just hop to something different, and I don't stay consistent with anything long enough to see results. And that's
Mm.
like a huge like theme of my life, to be honest. Like I overcame it with the gym because I've been going to the gym consistently for like the last like 3 months, and it's like I want to apply that mentality to other areas of my life because it's worked in the gym. Like I see my results and I see it working. But then with productivity systems, it's just like it's just so easy for me to like be like, oh, this isn't working, and then try and switch it up and try something else, and then watch a video on TikTok about it, or see one of your videos, and be like, oh, why don't I try that, and then never stick to something, and that's where I feel like just disorganized and in the position I'm in right now.
Well, that's where I think productivity, right, can become a trap because we
Yeah.
constantly think that we need to find the next best tip, hack, calendar structure that's going to just change our lives, right? That's not going to happen. Even for someone like myself who is very big in the space, like I come across new video pieces of content all the time where I'm questioning my own beliefs of like, wait, have I been doing it wrong all along? But it's good to be open-minded to what else is out there, but I think you have to give yourself enough runway to test some of these systems that you've developed for yourself, right? And
Hmm.
see what happens. So that system that you've developed for your fitness life, right? That was you coming up with a plan, whether you found it online or whatever it is,
Hmm.
committing to it, following through on it. I think same thing
Right.
with like, if you're like, hey, I find that I am most productive at a coffee shop. Okay. So how do we consistently till the end of January get you to be at the coffee shop at the same days of the week, Monday through Friday, if that's what you deem as like the days you want to work. At the
Yeah.
same time, if you're like, I want to be there starting work at 9:30 every morning, great. Like,
Right.
how do we build these consistencies in your life so that you don't have this option of like, well, it's not working, I'm just going to try something new. Like, we overthink it.
Yeah.
We think that it like needs to be this 15-step productivity thing and then everything just works. Like, it doesn't need to be overcomplicated. It's January 3rd, just to the end of the month. Like, can you just follow through and consistently showing up, doing the same things at the same time, creating that to-do list, seeing how much you can get done, and then seeing what the results look like by the end of the month.
I could do that, but the trap I fall into there is that I get bored doing the same thing. Like, or next week, for instance, I'm going to Florida, so I guess I go to a coffee shop in Florida on the Wednesday and Friday. But sometimes when I'm away from home, or there's two things. I sometimes like I'll do the same thing, and then it's me getting bored of doing it because I don't see like the
The
I don't know.
result.
I don't. Yeah, I don't see like the future. I'm not thinking about the future impact. I'm just thinking about in the moment. Like, yeah, this is boring.
I get that. But you have to trust that the boredom is actually a sign that you're staying disciplined, right? So if you feel boredom and you switch things up, you're not allowing yourself to actually do the work because you're distracting yourself from doing the work. So I need to change up the work environment. I need to change up the routine. I need to change up this. That's really you just rationalizing. Like you talk about dopamine hits, right? Like I've seen you post
Yeah,
content about dopamine hits. That in of itself is a dopamine hit. This is boring. I'm going to change things up. I'm going to distract myself from things I should be doing and come up with this new routine and new coffee shop and yes, this, that, the
yeah,
third. That's just a distraction. And then, like you said, I'm going to be in Florida. Once again, that in of itself is not the problem. If you're changing environments, that's okay. That's a moment for you to lean into this uncomfortable situation of, I'm going to be in a different state for a week. I don't know. I'm
Right.
not going to know my surroundings. I'm not going to have a gym. Cool. How do we treat this like an adventure? Like, how do I
Yeah.
just like find a workout every day? If it's going for a run, if it's doing push-ups in my hotel room, great. Something is better than nothing. Now
Right.
I need to find like the local coffee shop. It's not going to be the best one. It's not going to be one I'm used to working in Philly, but I'm just going to make it
Yeah.
work with what I've got. Right. So all that to say, like, I think you got to read. I think you need to relook at what boredom is to you. And I think you need to ask yourself, am I bored, or am I finally starting to get locked in on some consistency? And I'm just almost self sabotaging myself to believe that I'm bored and I need to change things up.
That's exactly what it is. It's like the self sabotage. Like feeling bored, and I'm like, I'm just gonna switch something up, and yeah, that's what it is. And like again, dude, like I've done this with the gym. Like I went to my mom's place for a whole week, and I was making a point to work out in her gym in her building. It wasn't a great workout, but it's like I was doing it. And for me, it's been a lot about like proving myself that I can do it in one area of my life. And then it's not like I sometimes kind of just hope that translates over to other areas. But I think the boredom thing is huge. Like that's a big reason why I stop. I stop with habits sometimes. I take like a week break or 2 weeks 2 week breaks because I get bored of it. And I thought it was like a me thing or an ADHD thing, but truly it was just me not sticking with it long enough to see results.
Mm,
Or like to build the discipline. Like I didn't realize that boredom was a natural part of the process. Like I just thought that when like you, for instance, I thought that you enjoy every single day you go to the gym, or it seems like people enjoy it every single day, and that there's like that like this disconnect between social media and the way you see something on a screen versus like the actual reality of it.
mm. Okay, this is really good. We're getting some good stuff right now, Kunal. Um, I think you've been framing it as boredom, but I want to challenge you. I think the real word is impatient.
Mm,
I think you're not being patient enough with like what it actually takes to see change, to see results, and but you're packaging it as boredom. I think it's you're almost being impatient in like the process of like allowing things to come to fruition.
yeah,
And then secondly, right, social media, it's a perception, right? Me waking up and going to the gym every day is not something that I necessarily love to do every day. I'd say more often than not, I've found a way to find joy in it because I know how important it is to my well being, to my productivity, to me as a
yeah,
human. But literally this morning, walking down my hallway to get my gym shoes, I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to sit down and meditate. I don't want to put
right,
my gym shoes on and go to the gym at 6:30 in the morning. I'd rather be in bed nice and warm while this heat is coming on. But I'm choosing to do the thing I don't want to do because I know that is more important than me going to the gym on the days that I do want to go. It's
yeah,
showing me that even on the days I don't want to do the thing, I'm consistently doing it because I know how important it is to me. So for
yeah,
you, I think as you've communicated, the gym stuff is, you've kind of figured that out.
yeah,
And your comment about like working out of your mom's gym, like something is better than nothing. I don't get a 10 out of 10 workout every day. Some days it's 1 out of 10. Some days it's 5 out of 10. Some days it's 3 out of 10. But over the long term, it averages out. Like I feel good. So I think for you, it's like taking that same discipline, mindset, structure, and framework that you figured out with fitness, where you've hit it for 4 or 5 months consistently. And how do you do that with social, with your friendships and relationships? How do you do that with work? I think from a lot of the work that we've done together, my biggest thing for you is just like schedule this shit in and
yeah,
fall through on it. And don't create any excuse or distraction as to why you can't do X, Y, and Z.
right.
Hold yourself accountable by following through on what you put your time into on that calendar.
Yeah, and a big part of this has been me making excuses and just like honestly, just being very emotional about. I was like, I don't feel like doing it. I catch myself saying that so often. Like, I don't feel like doing this, and I have a couple friends in my life who are just like, it doesn't matter how you feel. Like,
Mm,
just do it, and then think about how you feel after it. And I'm like, that worked for the gym, but like, here's like, again, I haven't really applied it. I just naturally hoping it works, but that's where it's like, I just. honestly, the systems that we've gone over, like the productivity system and the priority system, and like the block of work in the morning, that stuff works well for me when I do it. When
Mm,
I don't do it, then it's like I don't know. Sometimes I'll wait until the evening, or I'll just wait until I feel motivated. So it's like if I don't get it done in the morning, then I don't get it. Then that's when I start waiting. So I
mm,
mean, I'm kind of self solving my own problem right now. I think where it's like after I work out and after I have breakfast, like go to the coffee shop and putting in 2 hours or 2.5 hours and do like dedicated work. That's worked for me in the past. It's just like overcoming that initial thing of like starting a task or being like, I don't know what I'm writing or like I don't know what I'm doing. That just sometimes I let that completely like cloud, just
mm.
completely like ruin the whole productivity block.
So remember just 4 or 5 months ago when you were working full time, if you had a meeting at 9 a.m. or you had to be on a call at 9 a.m., would you be there for it?
Yeah,
Why?
because I had to. Someone was
You had
relying on
to,
me.
right? Whether it's the company's relying on you, a manager's relying on you, the external call, you knew you had to be there. You need to think like if you have to do a visualization, sometimes close your eyes, think about that example of like, I have a call or a meeting to be at 9 a.m. What does that look like? What does that feel like? Like, really hold on to like that feeling and emotion. And you need to translate that same feeling and emotion into you telling yourself, I'm going to be at the coffee shop by 9 a.m. every day to start my work.
Right.
The beauty of being the entrepreneur, as you've figured out in the last 4 or 5 months, is like, yeah, you are in full control of your time. The flip side is nobody's there to tell you what to do and when. So if
Yeah.
you're not holding yourself accountable, right? It's like, yeah, I can push things off and things don't get done. But how much differently would your productivity and your output look like on a weekly basis if you actually emotionally attach yourself to that feeling and emotion of like, I'm going to follow through on these deadlines that I set for myself as if it was a project for work. I'm going to show up to the coffee shop
Yeah.
at the same time every day as if I was walking into the office. That accountability,
Right.
that like holding myself to get X, Y, and Z done needs to become automatic, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's and in a way, in a way, like the work schedule was kind of holding my structure, my routine together. So once that went away, I took advantage of all the free time that I had, and I was like, oh, I can do whatever I want. There's no mandatory meetings, and that's where I took way too much advantage of that, and that's a mistake. I mean, that's honestly like one of the lessons I learned is like I I don't have I haven't built that self discipline because we discussed it on the call. I haven't stuck with anything long enough to like see the results. And even with certain things that I do, it's like, yeah, that's thinking of it like thinking like I'm attending a work call or something that would help.
Mhm.
Like I've tried it and it hasn't helped. Like I've thought about it that way and it's like, well, but it's not a work call. And like that's just like not strong enough of like an example to use. But like honestly, what works for me is like when I tell someone what I'm gonna do. The ones I text my friend, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get this newsletter done in the next hour, and I text him after it's done, or he receives it, and that works really well for me. Like I realize that accountability, like working with you, that was the most helpful part. Telling someone what I'm going to do and then doing it. But again, it works when I do it, and it doesn't work when I don't do it. Like
So I
that. So
think you need, so boom, you hit it. You're self aware enough to recognize what works. And that's when you need to triple down on that. So I know you've communicated like you're in this process of like looking potentially for some other gigs and opportunities for career wise. Like
Yeah,
obviously keep pursuing that, but in the moment, you're still running your own business. You are a
yeah,
solopreneur. You're doing this yourself, so you need to keep operating like that. And I think you have seen it whether it was working with me, like you said, or if it was working even with your friends. Like you get things done when you have someone to hold yourself accountable. So the thought is there is then like, how do you, that friend that you texted, how do you communicate to him like, hey, I'm going to keep texting you throughout the week, like these things I'm going to do. Like, you don't have to respond, but like, I need someone to
yeah,
hold me accountable. Or if you find a value in it, let's hold each other accountable and let's do a 15-minute stand up every morning at 9 a.m. where we chat through our priorities for the day. And let's do it after lunch check in. And then let's do an evening check in for 15 minutes. And now you have someone to consistently lean on, which gives you that sense of accountability.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
I think
that's
that could be a
great.
really good
I
first
like that.
step in seeing how that turns out for you.
I like that 15-minute idea a lot. Like before the day starts, kind of expressing like my what I'm gonna get done. And then telling him again, actually using the system that's worked for me, that I'm saying that's worked for me. Even if it is boring to me, or whatever. Like that's what it is. It's self sabotage. It's like I know what I should
Yeah.
be doing, but I'm not doing it. And that's such. I literally help my clients with this. That's where the
Yeah.
accountability comes into play, and it helps a lot. But me personally, it's just I see how it's impacted my life. And this year, a lot of my goals are oriented around like business, career wise, financial goals. And it's in order to hit those targets, I have to get this under. I want to get this under, under control, or find something, stick with it, basically.
Be honest with yourself, Kunal. How much differently do you think your output would look like if Monday through Friday you were consistently sitting down at the same time, dialing in on the things you need to get done, not worrying about being bored, but worried about just getting shit done? How much differently do you think your life would look in 30, 60, 90 days from now?
It would look really different in 90 days.
And the beauty is knowing the only roadblock, resistance, hurdle that you have to overcome between now and that 90 days is yourself. You're the only resistance, which may feel like a big deal, but at the same time, that should give you some inner peace knowing that you can easily overcome that by
Yeah.
just choosing to do the thing, even when it's uncomfortable, it's boring, you don't want to do it.
Right.
Sometimes you know what happens? You don't even know where you're going. You don't even understand, like, is this going to work? Me relaunching my podcast after being out the game for 16 months over the last 2 months, I'm just throwing shit at the wall. Every time I
Yeah.
go to record a solo episode, I'm like, I don't even know if this is going to resonate. I don't know if anyone's going to listen to it. I don't even know if the format makes sense. But I know that doing in that process, I'm learning those answers and I'm making course correctments as I go. It's the
Right.
same thing with you, brother.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And with content, actually, I was out of the game for a bit, and I made a goal to like 30 days, a 30-day challenge, and I stuck to it every single day for 30 days. And I did not want to show up half of those days, but I did, and it was great. I proved to myself that I can do that. So I'm doing it. But then with the newsletter, for instance, I know we talked about planning. I still have it on my calendar, and again, I think in December I just fell off it. But now it's the new year. It's like planning it in advance. I sometimes just see other ways of doing a newsletter. And I just start thinking about other things, and I remember, like, all right, just keep doing what I'm doing every Tuesday. Get it out there every Tuesday. Get
Hmm.
it out there, and it just gets repetitive and boring. But like that's just part of the process, and accepting that it's part of the process, and that everyone faces that too. It's leading me somewhere that's probably helpful. But I just make so many emotional decisions in the moment, and I'm like, oh, it's so easy. I'm not making money from this right now. Okay, whatever. I'm not gonna do it. That's just like the way I think sometimes. Huh?
Yeah, well, that is where I would challenge you and ask yourself, if money is no longer an issue, is this something I want to still keep doing? Because if not, you might need to be honest with yourself of like, is the newsletter worth my time? Because I actually don't like doing this. Is creating content worth my time? Because I actually don't like doing this. You started creating short form content because you wanted to help people and you wanted to help yourself. You weren't doing it for the money, right? So that's a great indicator that you're doing the right thing. If you're like, Bobby, I don't actually enjoy writing the newsletter, okay, maybe we don't have you do that. But you've communicated from what it seems that you do like doing it. I think once again, self sabotage, you're getting in your own way, you're comparing yourself to what other people are doing for the newsletters. That's all noise. If you want to
Yeah,
study what other people are doing and incorporate that into what you create, that's fantastic. But maybe you challenge yourself where it's like, I'm only going to allow myself to change up the format once a month. And that's it. Because if I don't set like a rule, I'm changing it up every week. I'm overthinking it. It becomes this big deal. So it's like, okay,
yeah,
January, I'm going to commit to this type of format. I'm going to write it for 4 weeks in a row. After that, do I like this? Do I want to change it up? Oh, I saw that Bobby's doing it this way. I kind of want to try something like that. And I also saw that Andrew Huberman's doing something like this. I'm going to try something like that. Like you can change things up, but don't, once again, distractions, getting
yeah,
bored, overthinking. That's just all pulling us off track from doing the actual work that we need to do.
yeah. I needed to hear that, and especially with like the over consuming content, it just I didn't realize that for a while, that reading these all these LinkedIn posts, all this motivation from all these people, like it's really like it was really holding me back, and it was kind of taking away from my own creativity. Like when I was consuming so much, because it's like when I wasn't able to get my newsletter done, I'm like, all right, I'll just read someone else's newsletter, and I'm like, that's giving me ideas. To be honest, it wasn't. It hasn't. If it did, I would have gotten the newsletter out every single week. It was just making me think like, some other better ways to do it, and just a lot of thinking, like not doing. That's how I felt.
Who's one of your favorite creators out right now?
Dan Co.
Dan Crow. Great, 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 great selection. Love his content. Started
Yeah,
diving deep into his content the last 3 months, 5 months. Dan Co's a great example, right? When he wakes up in the morning, he's not scrolling. He's working on his craft. Some of the some of your favorite creators are why they're so good at what they're doing is because they're really good at creating boundaries and not feeling the need to consume what other people are doing and just doing the damn work that they need to do.
right,
I myself, it's 1:38 Central Time at the time of recording this right now in this moment. This morning, I edited a script, I recorded a podcast, I then wrote a second script for a short form content. I edited that. I got some other work done. I'm here. Like I'd say since this morning, I've probably produced 80% of my time and spent 20% consuming. And of that 20%, it was intentional. Like, what's trending on TikTok? What are the new formats? Are there things that I should start
right.
consuming? So it was intentional scrolling. You understand the landscape of social media enough. You don't need to consume more than 20%. So I think you also need to get back into, which I know we chatted with, months ago. It's like, what do those social media boundaries look like? Maybe Kunal should not be looking at Instagram and TikTok until 12 p.m. every day because he knows he just needs to get done and get his work done. Like when you go to that
Yeah,
coffee shop, when you sit down, you open up the laptop, do you start working right away or do you start scrolling?
I start working, and then I take a break and start scrolling.
How long? How long is that? Like the break happens after 30 minutes and then you're scrolling or what? Like, be honest.
If I'm feeling bored, I'm not sure what I'm doing in 20 minutes, 25 minutes. It's
And
really
that
bad.
scrolling leads to not only does the 10-minute scroll distract you for the 10 minutes, but then when you finally put the phone down, you're like, wow, I just scrolled for 10 minutes. Oh, I'm distracted. Oh, I don't know what to do now. Oh, I'm bored. That's when all these thoughts start to happen.
Right. Yeah, and it's like I'm realizing this now. I've never like looked at my phone and then been like, "Oh, that makes sense," and then start writing directly. It's not like I've get an idea from my phone when I
Mhm.
look at it when I'm going through videos. It's just maybe I thought that's how it was in the past, but no, it always takes away from my train of thought. Um, and I've had again, it's so stupid. I have things like I have book right next to me, but then my phone's right here too. And again, I know when I pick up the book, I feel okay, I'm at least like educating myself. It's like I know what I should. This is a huge problem. It's like I know what I should be doing. Then I tell my clients what to do, and then I don't do it myself. And then that's when I feel some imposter syndrome sometimes. Where I'm like, oh man, I'm telling people what to do, then I'm not doing it myself every day, and that's like, it's just, it's it's annoying, but it's also like it's something that, like I have to get under control. Or just, yeah,
What I want you to do after this call is I want you to take yourself, and it's gonna feel really weird to do, but you have to really try to emotionally walk yourself through this process. I want you to take yourself through your own coaching activity, right?
yeah,
And I want you to play mirror. Okay. So I want you to act as a coach and say, Kunal, what are you dealing with now? I then want you to mentally put yourself on the other side and say, everything that we talked about today, right?
hmm,
And then I want you to put yourself back in the coaching shoes and say, okay, this is what I think you need to do. And I'm going to write a list. I'm going to write you a prescription of some of the things I think you need to do over the next 30 days, which is going to help you with some of the problems you're having. Write these things down. And I want you to take that prescription for yourself and actually follow through on it. You've coached clients, you are a very self aware individual. You can hold yourself accountable to making the necessary changes and to following through on what you know deep down inside needs to happen.
yeah. I coach myself in a sense, like is what you're saying. Like, yeah,
Easier said than done, but come up with some rules and boundaries for yourself, write them down, revisit them as often as you need to. If it's every morning, do that.
Yeah.
But you know the playbook, brother. You've been through this
Right.
process before. You know what the roadblocks are. Now it's just getting very clear on what you need to do. What are those adjustments you need to make to set yourself up for success in 2024?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And start number one I'm realizing is the consuming the content throughout the day. I stopped doing it at night now. I know that affects my sleep a lot with using the phone during the day. I was using it at night a lot before. It's affecting my sleep, so I stopped doing that. And I don't use it in the morning as much. I'm using it in the middle of the day, which is like probably the worst time to be using it. And that's where it's just impacting everything. So I think yeah, some self coaching.
Take the momentum right after this conversation and go right into
Um,
your own coaching call and just and write down everything that's coming to mind right now. Write down what are the things that you know need to change and be completely honest with
yeah,
yourself, regardless of
I
how long it
will.
is. And then on the next page, write a solution for every single thing that you know needs to change. Before we punch out, Kunal, where can people find you? Where can they connect with you?
Yeah, you can connect with me on Instagram, the Kunal Lifestyle, LinkedIn, Kunal Pathade, and my website is in my Instagram bio.
I'll have that all linked up in the description of the episode.
Awesome.
Kunal, thank you for carving out the time. Appreciate you, brother. Rooting for you in the new year. And yeah, man, it was great to catch up.
Thank you so much, Bobby. This was great. I really appreciate all your advice. And yeah, man, happy New Year.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Bearded Man Podcast.